Hello, everyone. I'm Ozzy Hidalgo. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the trainer and development director here at Synergia's Metropolitan Parent Center. Thank you all for being with us this morning. Today's webinar on language access is thanks to a grant from the New York City Public Schools Office of Language Access. And today's session is called You Have the Right to Be Understood. This workshop empowers parents and caregivers and professionals to understand and use language access rights so communication is clear and respectful and equitable in New York City public schools. We are so glad you're spending your morning with us. At the end of the presentation, we'll have a Q&A. Meanwhile, you can drop your questions anytime in the Q&A or chat. To do this, simply click on the Q&A or the chat icon that you have on the lower navigation bar located on your Zoom window, and then type in your question. I'll be keeping an eye on those throughout the session. So first, I want to mention our expectations for today. We, of course, expect 100% of your effort, your attention and participation. That's what we mean by that. Today's presentation will be about 40 to 50 minutes long, allowing time for Q&A at the end. We do not share private information in public. If you wish to share some sensitive information about your particular case, you can contact our intake line at 212-643-2840, extension 602, Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And today is a judgment-free zone. Today is not about blaming or shaming anyone. It's just about finding support and empowering ourselves, okay? So, like I mentioned before, this workshop is thanks to the Office of Language Access, and they are the ones who created this deck that we'll be going through today. Before we begin, I would like us to start with a short survey. The purpose of this survey is for the Office of Language Access to understand what is the current knowledge that you have about your language access rights before the presentation. So you can scan the QR code, and I have dropped the link in the chat. Oops, allow me 1 second. That link will take us to this form. You can translate the language of the form on the top right corner. The first question, you'll see they're asking for what is a community-based organization that is presenting these materials. You can enter Synergia, and then they will ask you to rate your current understanding of the document translation and interpretation services in New York City public schools. If you know how to request document translation services at your school, and if you know how to request interpretation services at your school, and what is one thing that you would like to learn or focus on during the workshop. Once you have completed that, please go ahead and click submit. I'll take us back to our presentation now. So today we're going to be going through some of New York City Public Schools background, some general information about the system, about the Office of Language Access commitment to families, um, about how the office puts effort into raising awareness in all of our communities. And then we'll go through the Office of Language Access website. And then, like I mentioned before, we'll have time for questions. So I don't know how many of you know this already, but New York City public schools system is one of the largest educational systems in the world, and it's also one of the most diverse. Every day that there's class, more than 1 million students go to class every day. So imagine more than 1 million families mobilizing so that kids can attend school every day. And we mean New York City, not New York State. We're talking about the five boroughs only. So think about more than 1 million families mobilizing every morning and afternoon. And the students will go to more than 1,600 schools around the five boroughs. And in those schools, we have the office has determined that there are more than 180 languages that are spoken. So think about even if at a school not all of the 108 languages are spoken, even if just half of those languages are spoken, 90 languages in one single school, it's quite a large amount. So that demonstrate a lot of the diversity that is present in New York City public school systems. And about 38% of those families that are mobilizing every day that we have class speak another language other than English at home. So that's why New York City Public Schools has this office, the Office of Language Access, that makes translation and interpretation services available to all families throughout the city because of this diversity. And you can see that these are the languages that are currently being provided for services of interpretation and translation. And the office is currently and always making efforts to add more languages to this list. So, like I said, the commitment that the office makes is to provide free language assistance to all families. This includes interpretation and translation services. So one key aspect of this is knowing the difference between interpretation and translation. I know that a lot of times we use it as synonyms. However, they're quite different. And if we're going to be requesting these services at schools, then it is important for us to know, of course, the difference between them. So for interpretation, that's what we refer to the service of oral translation, which happens in person, virtually, or over the phone. That means that a person it's going to be translating orally, real time, what you're saying and what another person is saying so that the two of you can communicate, or a group of people in the case of meetings, for example. So, and translation services refer to the translation of written documents. So, everything that it's written, if it's printed or digital, can be translated to another language. So, keep in mind that important distinction. Interpretation means that you will need a person in real time interpreting for you what another person is saying and what you're saying. And translation means you need a written document translated to a different language. And the Office of Language Access has a lot of advertisement about these services around the city. You're probably familiarized with these advertisements. You will find them in all schools. Maybe you have seen them when you walk into the schools in the lobby, or maybe you have seen them in the classrooms. But they're also present at supermarkets, salons, barber shops, and of course, bus stations, the subway. They also advertise these services in radio and in digital media. And they also make efforts to communicate this to families via emails, via calls, via text messages. Some of you may recall receiving this in the past. So this is all with the effort to let families know that these services exist, that they are free, and that it is their right to ask for them in all of New York City public schools. Now, let's talk about the website where we can find access to these services, which is schools.nyc.gov/hello. I have dropped the link in the chat for all of you. One thing that is important about this website is that you can translate it on the top right corner to many different languages. And in this website, you will find not only access to these services, but general information about them. Some of this general information is presented in video form. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the video that the office has put on their website before we continue. So let's pause for a second and enjoy the video. Great. So some of you may recognize excuse me, that video. If you do, it's because we feature that video in all of the Metropolitan Parent Center's newsletter. So if you find it familiar, that's why you will always find information about language access rights from the Office of Language Access in Synergia's Metropolitan Parent Center newsletter with information about these services as well. And before we continue, since we're on the website already, I would like to ask you to go ahead and bookmark this website so that you can access it anytime that you need it, or if you find that anyone else at your school needs these services, you can provide the link to them so that they can access the services too. Great. So now let's talk about the other section on the website that you will find pretty useful, which is the menu. On the menu, you will find different sections. All of these sections can be expanded by clicking on these arrows, the ones that are pointing down next to each section. So once you click on each section, more information will display. For example, on the first section, you will find information about how it is your right to request interpretation and translation services at New York City Public Schools. This information may be useful if you're ever at school and you find that when you request these services, the person is not quite clear on what you're referring to or what you're talking about. For this, you can always refer them to this website, and this section specifically talks about how this is a right that all families have. Then we'll find the section Helpful Resources, where you will find information and more resources. For example, these I Speak cards. These are cards that you can find printed in most schools. You can request them as well. A lot of them will have the blank section on the back so that you can write yourself what is the language that you speak. And you can use this card to show it to any staff at New York City Public Schools to let them know which is the language that you speak, that you prefer. And then that will guide them to access these services for you via whether that is interpretation or translation. They can take care of accessing those services if you need them when you show them this card. And this card is really useful in other settings as well. If you're ever at a supermarket or if you're at the bank or any other place where they don't speak your language, you can always use this card to let them know what is the language that you speak. A lot of these places will have their own language access services available. For example, at banks or DMV, the DMV office or any government office may have similar services available, so you can let them know which language you speak using these useful cards. On the next section of that menu, you will find a form where you can request language services. This means, like we know, interpretation or translation. The first step for requesting these services should always be for you to request it directly to the schools. We recommend families not only to do this to follow the process, but to create rapport between you and the staff of the school for them to get to know you, for them to know that you have language access services needs, and it is a beneficial thing for you to put into practice. When you request these services, if you do it in person, we recommend doing it via a letter. Always bring two letters so you can hand them one and they can sign the other one. And what information should you include in this letter? Well, of course, you should identify yourself and identify the student, your child. You should let them know what is the service that you're requesting. If you need interpretation, let them know for what meeting or for what event you need it, the day of the event, the time of the event. If you're requesting translation, let them know what document you need translated. And of course, include the date and sign it. It's not a very, it doesn't need to be a very long communication. You just need to let them know in a very brief, assertive way, I need these services, please provide them. Now, when you request this from schools, they will go into this form themselves to complete the that part of the process. Now, if you want, you can also visit the website and you can complete the form. Once you complete the form, the Office of Language Interpretation, the Office of Language Access, I'm sorry, will get in touch with the school. You should follow up with the school. You should make sure that they are in communication with the Office of Language Access and that they know that you have requested these services. Don't wait until last minute to request them. If you're requesting interpretation services, they should be requested at least 4 school days before the day when you need them. So always request them as soon as you know you're going to need them, as soon as you know you have a meeting, at that moment, request the interpretation services. If you know you're going to be receiving an important document, let the school know that you're going to be needing the translated version as well, or request it as soon as possible. So another section that you will find on the menu is the section to request sign language interpreting services. This is a very specific service and it needs to be requested directly by emailing or by calling the Office of Language Access. If you know anyone who needs this service or if you yourself need the service, now you know where to locate the information so that you can get in touch with the Office of Language Access and request it. You can also connect with the Office of Language Access directly. You will find a form on the menu on the website And you can use this contact form to ask them any question, any general question that you have about the services, about the work that they do, any questions that you have about um, any language access rights as well. So now we know that when you need interpretation or translation services at school, you should first contact the school. We recommend doing that in written form. Like we said, you can do that using a letter. You can do that by sending an email. You can also request those services directly from the Office of Language Access website. You can also request interpretation services by calling 311 and let them know that you need language access services when you call, when they pick up the phone, and they will put you through an interpreter that can interpret real time over the phone. And if you have any questions or if you would like any assistance from Synergia's Metropolitan Parent Center, you can also contact us and open an education advocacy case for us to help you get in touch with the office and solve any issues or any matters that you may have. You will also find a way to share feedback with the office using a form that you will find on the menu. So you can share feedback about interpretation and translation services that you have received. For example, if you have ever received a document that is not in English from a New York City public school, that means that you have received translation services. It is always important to let them know if things are working, if things could improve. Any positive feedback or constructive feedback is always welcome. And this is how we make sure that the system and the process keeps improving and getting better for you and for other families as well. So I want us to take a moment to really think back and think if you have received this type of services at school, translation or interpretation, take a moment to provide feedback, think back and try to remember what happened, if you have any positive comments, if you have any constructive criticism, take a moment to visit the form and provide feedback so that the office is aware of what's happening out there. Bear in mind, like we mentioned before, there are over 1,600 schools across the city, and this is one single office, one centralized office where all of these services are provided from. So, one way that you can assist in helping making the system better every day for every family is by providing feedback, by being the eyes on the ground for the Office of Language Access so that they know what is happening specifically at your school when people request these services. Another option that you will find on the menu of the website is to provide feedback directly if you have any sort of issues. Um, The Office of Language Access has worked with community-based organizations like Synergia for years to improve the system and to make these services available and to raise awareness for all families in the city. And one of the changes that come because of that is that they have added this section so that you can provide um, feedback about any issues that you may have. If you have a complaint, there is a complaint form there, so you can utilize it in any time to let them know what is going on. Like I said, remember there are many, many schools in the city with many classrooms, and the office will definitely try to assist as best as they can in all cases. But if something falls through the cracks, you always have this option to use the complaint form and to let them know, and they will, of course, try to correct it the best they can. So with that, we have completed the options on the menu of the website, and that is the end of our workshop for today. Before we end, I want to take us to complete the post survey. The intention of this survey is for the Office of Language Access to know what you have learned after this workshop, if the information was received, if you understood everything correctly. So I have dropped the link on the chat, and you can also scan the QR code. Once you do that, you'll be taken to this website where you will find a form. The first question is which community-based organization is providing this workshop. You can enter Synergia, and then they will ask you to rate how satisfied you are with today's workshop. A yes or no question on whether you gain knowledge or not. If you're planning on making a request for translation or interpretation services in the future, and how likely is it for you to recommend this workshop to other families, and if you would like more workshops like this one in the future. And finally, you can provide comments about the workshop, and then please go ahead and submit. Perfect. So I'll take us back to our presentation. Please let me know by raising your hand if you need some additional time to complete the survey. While you all do that, I'll pull up our Q&As. I see that none of you have added questions on our Q&A. So now that we have completed the workshop, it's our time for questions. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them on the chat. I know that some of you may be completing the survey still, so I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that and to drop your questions in the chat if you have any. And thank you all so much for being here with us today. I hope that you enjoyed today's presentation on You Have the Right to Be Understood. If you need further assistance or resources, please call our intake line at 212-643-2840, extension 602, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Or you can also send an email to intake@synergiany.org. We also invite you to connect with us via social media. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn by searching Synergia Inc. on any of your devices. I also dropped the links on the chat for all of you. And since none of you have any questions with that, thank you all so much for your attention today and enjoy a beautiful rest of your day. Goodbye.